Hello friends, it's Terry with Terry's Mailbox, and today I'm presenting for the Funky Junkie Boutique. We have a Saturday showcase and I am doing sentiment shenanigans. I'm not saying that all in one word. So I ended up creating 8 different cards using different techniques and Stampers Anonymous stamps and Sizzix dies and other ink products. So I'm going to walk you through what I did. So here's the dies I ended up using. And so here I am stamping. The first card, I'm using the bold saying CMS 433, and I'm using Salvage Patina ink to go ahead and just stamp them on white cardstock. And I've selected both the Happy Birthday and the Thank You So Much stamps. I ended up not using the Thank You this time around. But again, it was on the positioner, so we'll just go ahead and go with the flow here. So I've got it stamped, and I'm happy with the amount of ink on there. So the next thing I did was grab one of the mini stencils from set number 52, and I am inking up the center of it using peacock feathers. And so when you do this technique, it's really important that you wipe the white base off. Otherwise, you're going to end up stamping that as well. So I'm basically stamping with a stencil. And when you use a geometric stencil, it's very easy to match up and to line the stamp or the stencil back up over it if you want it a little darker. When you move it to the right, you just kind of line those circles up in my case. So again, I put a piece of cardstock, scrap cardstock over the right sentiment because I didn't want to mess it up. I already had it done. So check out those little dots there. You can see I, kind of accidentally got little dots on there. So I'm going with the flow and adding more little dots using my finger and my inky finger and just kind of adding the dots so that it looks consistent. And so we'll move on and create the Happy Birthday to You. This one I'm doing in Shaded Lilac, and I'm stamping it just on an A2 card base. I'm going to do just a clean and simple card with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put the shaded lilac on there, pressing it down, making sure that I've got good coverage, and then I'm going to switch over to Wilted Violet and use the architecture stamp on top, which is CMS 369. So again, I love this back building. I've used it several times. I think it's just really cool. But what I'm doing then is I'm going ahead and inking up the Wilted Violet, and we'll stamp right over the sentiment. And this is cool because again, I created a clean and simple card by just using stamps. So in the end, all I had to do was just attach this to the front of an A2 card base. Easy peasy. Next up is alcohol ink. So I'm using some of the dies from the bold text number 2. So I selected some that kind of, both kind of go with Happy Birthday. And so I've taken a piece of alcohol ink background that I had in my infamous stash that I talk about quite a bit. So again, I popped all of the letters out, and here I have that background piece. So I thought that I was going to do a shaker card. You kind of see I've got sequins here, so I added the foam, and then I went to put the sequins in and then realized that I forgot to put the acetate on. So we're just popping it up and making a 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional card with the shadows. And so I have all those cool alcohol ink letters sitting off to the side. Well, we can't let those go. So I cut the sentiment or the dies out of an A2 shaped card base, and I am currently applying double-sided tape to the background so that I can fit the letters in just like a puzzle piece. So here we'll go. I'll go ahead and pull that tape off and then attach it to another piece of white cardstock. And then I've got all of those sections there that I can go ahead and put the letters in. So here I'm just taking off the tape. And again, that leaves the tape across those openings. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it on a piece of white cardstock. In the end, I ended up trimming this down and then mounting it on a blue frame before I put it on an A2 base. But for right now, I'm putting all the letters in here. So I'm just kind of pushing them in, fitting them in like a puzzle piece. And so there are my two card fronts. I've got a positive and a negative one that I completed from this one alcohol ink background. So next up is Bold Tidings Mini number 440. And so I'm actually stamping this on a piece of Paper Stash Noel printed cardstock. It's got little stars on it. So again, you can see there that I've lined all of the sentiment stamps from that Bold Tidings set so that it fit on an A2 card front. And so I'm using faded jeans and just kind of multiply stamping it so that I can get really good coverage there. So we're just making sure, that I get all in the nooks and crannies and get all of the sentiments completely stamped. So there you have the background. And so then what I'm doing is I'm actually adding some trees from the, what's the name of it? From one of the tree dies here. I'm sorry, I've misplaced my note. And then I also cut a sentiment out of the Starry Skies. Snowy stars, I'm sorry, Sizzix die. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and pop out all of those little circles. And then I'm actually using translucent grit paste. And so I thought that I would add little sparkles on here was really kind of what I was going for. So go ahead and spread that on there. And then get a good coating. I made the stencil just with a piece of white cardstock. It works very, very well. And again, I'm sorry, the tree die was Woodland Tree. So back to the sparkles here. So I'm using my glitter duster with rock candy glitter in there to add some sparkle. You can't really see it in the photos, but in the actual card, you absolutely can see the sparkle swoosh that I have going on there. So I pulled out some white gesso, and again, I love to splatter with white or black gesso. I think it works really, really well. And in this case, I'm adding more snow. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of water and then start splattering. So we're just splattering the snow. Last thing is to attach it to an A2 card base and glue the woodland trees on there, and I'm ready to go. Next one up is a Hello Friend card. So I ended up cutting this one out of the alphanumeric uppercase letters. So I cut out Hello Friend with white cardstock 2 times, glued them together. Now I'm just taking the doily stencil and I'm using Wilted Violet right now to add the color there in the background. And again, I was just looking to put a pattern on the letters, and you can see that I've got the letters stuck to a piece of sticky, the sticky tape stuff so that it could hold it in place. So again, just making sure that I've got color on all of it, and then I ended up covering that with shaded lilac so that I added more color and more interest. And there I go with the lilac. And then I'm going to coat the top of it with Nuvo drops so that it's, nice and shiny and pops up even more. So I had once I got this all taken care of, I did set it aside to let it dry. But here I am. I found a little spot here that I thought needed a little more dark color on there, so I added it. And then I set it aside and let it all dry. And then I also used that doily piece on an A2 card base, and I colored the entire thing with the purple ink again. And so then I've got a dark purple background, and so I wanted to trim the stenciled piece just a little bit. And you can see I've also stamped a flower from the Floral Outlines stamp. This is one of my favorite floral stamps. So again, I'm going to go ahead and add that on there. And so this is kind of my background, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue all the letters on. Now, after I was playing with the letters, I sort of decided that they don't there wasn't enough contrast, so I cut each one out of the dark purple cardstock, and then I glued them on and just kind of did them offset just a little bit to form that that shadow. Now, of course, I could have used the shadow on the die, but I decided to do it this way. So again, it kind of added a little more strength and layering to the letters. So again, I'm just gonna glue them all in here. So you should see a red arrow at the bottom of your screen. I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then hit the notation, the bell, so that you get notified when I post new things. So I have a lot of fun with the Tim Holtz and the Stampers Anonymous, and these are kind of my favorite sets. So you can see there I threw an acrylic block on the top. That's another thing I do often. My acrylic blocks have glue on them and not so sparkly clean, but again, when you use them as weights, that works really well. So again, here I am just finishing up, adding the letters. I can't decide which one's my favorite. This one I really liked. I really liked the way this one turned out. I thought it was very pretty and, just a different way to use sentiments. Okay, so we're going to move on to another one using the Noteworthy CMS 446. So again, I use temporary tape and just tape the entire stamp set into the top of my stamp positioner, and I'm stamping it on craft cardstock using Vintage Photo ink. So again, I'm just going to continue to ink it until I get, what I feel is a good image, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim it down to an A2 card base size. Actually, I'm cutting it a little bit smaller. I'm allowing a 1/4 inch on, on the sides, not quite an 1/8 of an inch, I guess I should say. But now I'm using the pressed foliage CMS 376, and I pulled out crushed olive, dusty concord, and peeled paint. I love this color combination. I love the purples and the greens. So as you can see, I'm kind of spot inking the foiled leaves. I've got them kind of arranged on the positioner top, so I'm not inking the whole thing. I'm just kind of doing spot inking so that I have multiple colors on my leaves, as you do in the fall. They're not all green, yellow, purple, red. They are all different colors. So once I get that all together, I spritzed it a little bit. Now I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it. And I like the way this one turned out. Another, clean and simple card. You just mount it on, a colored frame, and you're good to go. So there it is, my completed card on the purple frame. So I'm liking this one. I like this one a lot. All right, last card. We're going to do a Christmas snowy letter Christmas card. So again, I'm back to the bold text, and so I stamped out the thank you so much, and I ended up stamping it a couple of times in faded jeans, and then I also stamped it with a layer of embossing ink, and then added some clear embossing powder and then dried it. And again, I wanted those to be sturdy and, kind of shiny. And so what I'm doing now is you can tell I'm fussy cutting these guys out. So again, thankfully, most of the letters were straight cuts and not too many curves except for the O and the U. And I'm not going to use these so much. So again, once I've got them all cut out here, I'm going to add snow using grit paste. So again, I'm just kind of taking a palette knife, and I'm just kind of throwing the snow up there on the top of each one of the letters. Just kind of putting a little blob of snow. It was kind of fun. And then I'll set those aside to dry. So the next thing I wanted to do was stamp the image. And so I'm using the gnome stamp from the Cozy Christmas. And again, faded jeans on just white cardstock towards the bottom. And, I had to do a couple of passes to get it inked up. But again, love this image. Just think it's adorable. And so what I did with this is I ended up trimming it a little bit. I've got approximately a 1/4 inch total on the sides, top and bottom together. And so I'm going to go ahead and attach that gnome on there. And then I'm going to use skinny foam tape, little foam tape strips. And I'm going to go ahead and pop the letters up. And so you can see I'm using this very skinny foam tape because, again, I didn't want it to pop out. I didn't, I just thought it was the easiest thing to do. And again, this skinny foam tape is very pliable, and you can shape it around the different letters. So there you go. I'm putting the bottom part on here first. I just thought this one was cute with the snow. I don't know. I can't decide which one out of the last two were my favorites. So now I've got the thank on there. And again, all I've got to do now is just set it aside and let it dry. So let's take a little tour. Here's the Hello Friend card with the floral outline. And you can see how that's mounted on darker cardstock. Next up is one of the alcohol ink ones. So this was supposed to be my shaker card, but oh well. And so here is the leftover letters that I made in another entire card front on. Here's this one, which again is that stenciled one, and I used the stencil on the background to also color in, and then I added the sentiment piece that we did early in this video on the top. Next up is that, again, clean and simple, just simply stamped card. How easy was that, and how cool that looks. And here we have my cute little gnome thank you card with all the snow on it. So I really like this one. And so here's the one with that other sentiment stamp set and the woodland trees on there with a little bit of sparkle. You can kind of see the sparkle there when I move the card in the light. And here is the leafy one that's done with the noteworthy and the, oh gosh, what is it? Pressed foliage card. So here's all of them together. Again, it's Terry with Terry's Mailbox. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Blogger. I'd love to have you come and follow me. Happy fall.